Hey,
Hey.
Devon.
Well, hello. Long time no talk.
Hey, everyone out there. We are so excited today. We have Devon Boyd, who is amazing, very intelligent, and just an all-around fun guy. And we are going to talk about the film industry. We're going to talk about other things, and we're really, really excited to talk with Devon today. So, you know how it is. We like to get it done here with Tish, and we only maybe come up with our Quoia.
Woo, 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 woo.
So
and today we're going to talk about finance.
What about finance? Oh, we having a chat about finance? I don't know. I've never heard that word. That's again, in film maybe. I don't know these things. I've been stuck in a cave.
Well, Devon, everybody's out here really trying to get in their bag. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but everybody's creating a script. Everybody's, working on projects, and people really want to know how can they finance their projects. So I know that today's conversation is going to be very knowledgeable, but also very helpful. And it is going to be lit. Trust me, because money's always lit.
How do you see the Instagram? You see all the people who are joined. Who's all following this, or is something taped later, recorded? You have real time.
We are live.
Yes, we're live on Facebook.
Viewing. Say hi to the viewers.
Well, hello, party people. Go on, Tish.
No, it's so exciting because most of the time when I bring people on, it's like we've already had like a million conversations, so it's just so light with us.
Yeah.
And the viewers out there, they're always commenting like, "Oh my God, this is so profound," and I'm like, "Gosh, we've had this conversation like 5 times already."
Well, yeah, Tish, you and I go back a couple years now. I mean, literally a couple years at this point. We've probably had this whatever conversations we're going to have. We've probably had them before, but all the more fun. So.
Yeah. So Quoia, let's get some background on Devon.
Okay. So Devon, you have been involved in putting some major projects together, such as The Expendables, Righteous Kill, and The Mechanic. How did you get started in the industry? That's what we want to know.
Okay. Well, I was I went to school for finance, economics degree, all that, and then I decided finance was kind of, I didn't want to work for a cog factory, financing, basically I thought that part of it was not interesting to me. I grew up kind of wanting to be to score films, and everything I knew growing up, I'm like, well, I don't know what it is, but I want to be a part of films just in general, making them from a musical point of view. And I'm like, well, let me add my finance background. But you graduate school, you know nothing about movies except it's good, it's bad. I grew up in LA, so it's kind of my family was in it, so I kind of loved it from day one. So so I got out of school and I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did the course. I basically went through the School of Hard Knocks that everyone goes through that wants to do it. Where I started at ICM, I started an agency. I worked these hard desks with the heads of all these departments, and it was I learned very fast. Agents are miserable people. I'm sorry but for the most part, they're just they're hateful, and I'm just like I don't want to be that. Money at a point, that's great. That's no one has a problem with money, but I mean these people. Most agents at CAA, William Morris. Sorry for everyone I know over there, and ICM, and they kind of just. A lot of them are just miserable. So I said, I don't want to be an agent. I said, I really don't. So I did that I put my time in. Then I got a job as a development executive on the Universal lot. So I was in the back lot. That was fun, except the problem was, studios, you don't get anything done ever. Mm-hmm. Development studio is just, it's almost pointless. It's just, and I just, you work 7 days a week, I managed the office, and I was a development executive. So I was basically, everything to everyone all the time, and then you take home a stack as high as your head of scripts, and spend your entire weekend reading them, and then they don't go anywhere. You give your notes to the head of the head of the of Universal, whoever it is, and they say, oh, that's great, we'll good, put it we'll put it in the pile. So that I was like, okay, well, this is not really where I see any future. And I said, well, why don't I get a little closer to the money? So I started working at Millennium Films. In short order, I took over the finance department, and essentially while I was there, I financed about, I don't know, 30 or so films. Like you said, The Expendables, The Mechanic, Righteous Kill, Brooklyn's Finest, a lot of big movies. And it's kind of like a crash course in like, oh wow, this is the indie world. This is totally different from the studio world. You don't just have a war chest of cash, funded by some multinational company that owns it, where you can never run out. You're like you're Disney, Netflix, you're Universal. You're just endless. You're owned by like these huge conglomerates that are public and just have endless money. So you really have to make sure that your movies make money. You can't just be the entertainment film division of a telecommunications company that has whether or not they lose or win, they're kind of they're supported. So you really have to make sure your films make money. As an indie, and Millennium's was one of, at the time, is probably one of the largest truly private. Everyone gets, like the Summits of the world, everyone gets acquired at a point. So they're not really, technically private, indie. So we had to make sure we made money. So that was kind of my job, was to finance the movies and make sure they made sense beforehand. Because if you lose money on, if you lose money on a movie like Expendables, that was the biggest movie Millennium had ever done. So you lose money on that, you're out of business, really, because that was I don't want to say it's 100 million, because it wasn't, but it was it was close enough. It was on the upward side of that, and for any movie or any independent studio, no matter how big or small, losing $100 million will probably be. So you really can't do it. So we made it a point of making sure we didn't. So that's why I can say I haven't lost money in a movie, which is kind of crazy, but we were slightly different times a handful of years ago, but we did it because we worked backwards and we were smart, and we didn't take any major risks. So so that's how I ended up in film finance, and I've since long left, and I've worked for different companies, different producers. I have my own company now. I kind of work for myself, which is good. It's I don't know if I could ever go back to working for anyone else, but I consult with a lot of people. Try to be of help when I can, and raise money, and raise kind of funds for people. So that's kind of the genesis of how I got to where I am.
What's so funny? Like when you were talking about the stacks full of scripts, have you seen the Netflix series Hollywood?
Oh,
no,
It is so reminiscent of everything that's like so wrong with being at the studio, and that like is one of the things that they talk about in the show. It's so interesting. So if you haven't watched it, it's so good. They kind of do like a spin on if Hollywood did things the right way, way that you should watch it. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's actually one of my favorite shows.
Sorry, you lost connection there for a second.
Oh, can you? Yeah, I was saying it's actually one of my favorite Netflix shows. It's only like a limited series, but it definitely is worth watching. So if you get a chance, watch that.
Well, I will, because when I was in the early 2000s, Entourage came out, and I was working at ICM at the time, and it was really funny because it kind of got off topic, but for a few, it's like you said, it was kind of right on. The first few seasons were like, oh my God, no one knows this, but this shit actually happens. Pardon my French. It's like, I've seen agents throw staplers back in the day when they like at their assistants' heads who were girls, where you're just like, oh, you never get away with that now. You're just like, Jesus. Or you're just like, Jesus Christ. Like, how can you?
Wow.
Crazy stuff. But now of course they'd be sued, and
pretty much. Yeah.
Now they got away with stuff back then. You're like, did they just do that? Did I just see a stapler getting hurled across like a thing? But we watched Entourage back in the day, and we're like, oh my god, this stuff is like right on. Like they think it's crazy, but like the staplers fly, the pencils for the pins and pencils fly, the screaming. It just was like a thing that happened where it's like, okay, well, there's no amount of money that makes this worthwhile.
That is crazy. But it's so real. Let me tell you, like, it's like being in the industry, it's just like the wild, wild west. You just never know what you're going to get when you start working with people. Like I mean, Devin, I can't speak for you, but I'm going to say for me, it's like the wild, wild west. Like there's never like a clear set or a core value that you can be like, oh, they represent this. You're like, no, you step into a situation, you're like, well, I thought you were, but you're not.
I don't know. Well, it's yeah. I mean, well, you and I, Tish, have seen some crazy things ourselves, and just in the time we've known each other, and I mean, that's like not even a drop in the water of all the things that happen. Where you just say, okay, well, it doesn't surprise me anymore. It doesn't.
Right.
Devin, I have a question for you. You talked about how you went to school, and I see a lot of commonalities between you and Tish. So Tish has her undergrad degree is in economics, right, Tish? Economics, right? Economics. And you went to Harvard. You have an MBA for Harvard, correct?
I don't have an MBA. That'd be nice, but no, I mean, I did actually. No, I went to University of Colorado Boulder, which.
Okay. And you do have an MBA, correct?
I don't have an MBA. No, I was going to. Harvard was I was thinking about. I was thinking about getting an MBA, but that was about the time I got hired because I wanted to go back to school for finance, and Harvard was one of the schools. They had a. I mean, obviously it's Harvard, so you can't really go wrong, but. Right. Yeah, at the time that I was pondering, I was taking MBA classes, and I was thinking about making the full plunge. I wanted, at Harvard. But I got the job. I think that was about the time that I started. I just decided to go back into the film business, and because there was a time where I said, you know what, this is just not everything that I want to make movies, and there are two ways to start in the business. You start as kind of like a PA. You have you're bringing copies to people, which I've done I interned in high school and did that, and there's a way, there's that path too. I mean, that's another hard path because you can end up being some jerk director's personal assistant for the rest of your life.
Right.
And, so it's I mean, whatever. I mean, it's hard either way you cut it. I mean, there's no real easy way, but
well, you both have a passion for finance, that you both are passionate about finance. And I know that you've raised just a substantial amount of money for films. And I know that Tish is also, the commonality is finance, right? And you both have this quality, which is like this get it done quality. And you talked about that earlier. What qualities do you think that you possess that just where you could just get it done? You could raise that money, because I mean, that's not an easy feat. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, you just can't quit. And, what you realize when you, when you work a lot, and, film, I don't think is necessarily different than, too much different than any other business. But, if you're relatively capable of what you do, you find that a lot of people are just, they're just kind of incapable. They're just not professional. They don't have what it takes. So, it's kind of like it's not a sprint. It's a marathon of like, if you're the last one in the room, that's you're showing people you can get it done, and you're really just, people just want a response. They want quick timing. What people tell me a lot is like, oh my God, I've dealt with so many other people, and they take a long time to get back to me. I ask for something, and it's like, bam, it's there. You deliver it in like under time, and they're always shocked and like, wow, that's like so. And I'm like, I'm just, I'm not like anything, I'm not like Superman. I'm just being professional. So you'd be surprised out there, even people who really want it. There's some disconnect between, what you have to do to actually get it versus, I'm not Michael Jordan in film finance. It's like I'm not the, I might.
But you are.
But I'm just the guy, I'm like the Dennis Rodman up there, like, scraping for rebounds. I'm I'm not gonna like well, Dennis Rodman's great, but but it's kind of that. It's kind of that, you really have to be hungrier than the next person. And I'm not even that, because that kind of leads to, oh, I'm going to, crabs in a barrel. I'm going to, I'm going to get ahead by taking from you if someone else is getting ahead. And it's really I think it's more collaborative than anything else. If the people that work hard but will screw people over and burn the relationships are the people that don't get ahead, even if they're, they work just as hard as you, if they're just as smart as you, whatever. I'm not I just tend to treat people well, and they say, wow, you're really proficient in what you do. You do it well, you're good at it. And but moreover, there's a trust factor. And I think that in entertainment, it's one of the hardest things to come by, because people will, they'll screw their mothers for $1. They'll throw them in front of a bus. So, and that's, unfortunately, that's in a lot of businesses. It's in film a lot. So, really, that's, having that quality of trust with the, actually being able to deliver to people is something that, I think that's, separates a lot of people from making it, not making it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think that when you talk about transitioning from the studio to the independent company, did you find that there was maybe something different that the studios were doing that the independent companies were not, as far as how they were financing their projects?
It's a completely different model. The studio world is, it's all about just, theatrical, and, that's what they have. And, of course they have everything else. It's not just about that, but it's a very different model, in the sense that you say, I think, I Fast and Furious 500, whatever the hell, whatever, or Hobbs and Shaw, or the next, I don't know. I think they're, I don't know.
Hobbs and Shaw, and then someone else.
Star Wars Episode 10, and all these things, and they just kind of, they make a gamble that it's going to do well, and they kind of say, all right, it's going to do X at the box office, it'll do X streaming, I'd say home video, but that's really just now pay streaming and free streaming, and then and then TV and all that. But the difference is they don't work backwards. They just say, and that's why they're not very creative, to be honest, because they, they'll just pick franchises that they know. It's just it's almost a math model. It's okay, well, some movies that I've kind of been somewhat a part of, it's like a Bad Boys or this, that, and the other. Which now is obviously a very strained model, because who knows what's theatrically, things are kind of a mess. But the difference is when you're an independent movie company, you have to really reverse engineer things. The market, instead of saying, oh, I think this will do well because it's a franchise, and I don't care, Terminator 5, Star Wars 10, Fast and the Furious, whatever. Name your franchise. They just say, oh, the last 5 did well. I'm a studio executive, and I'm going to rubber stamp this, and we don't care if it's really shit. To be honest, sorry to say, but we're just going to blast it. We have the money to spend $100 million in P&A, and we make it a $300 million. I can't even, the numbers I've seen for some of these movies, it's they approach $500 million, and it's when you get to those numbers, it's, you can imagine it's, you have to make $1 billion in sales, plus even cash in. It's just these numbers are incredible. And if you're not Disney or one of the majors, you really that would no independent production company could do it, for starters. But difference is you really have to work backwards when you're an independent production company. You have to really see the market. You have to know what a film's worth in France, and know what it's worth in Spain, and you have to really just grind it down and be okay, let's sell it to all these territories. And I know worst case you could sell it for 12 million. So that means the budget can be more than 10. So at the minimum, you're making a return on it. And if it does well, maybe you have a movie that's like Expendables or something that it has a potential overages on theatrical, where you say, all right, well, worst case, if it does shitty in the theater, we'll still make money. But if it does well, it's kind of like in the stock market, it's basically hedging your bets. You just have to work backwards and know what things are worth, because you can't just flip a coin. You can't make, one big movie like that you basically misjudge could sink your company, because it's, or burn your investors, or, or put you in bankruptcy. So it's a very different model, and kind of theories behind it.
Well, would you advise independent filmmakers to be niche, as far as financing is concerned? Would you advise it for them to have like a niche model?
Right now, yes, because it's such a different, we're kind of waiting to see where it's kind of like an explosion where you're like, okay, now who's alive? The last 6 months, it's like, who's alive? Are you okay? Who's injured? Take the injured here. It's very, no, it is. You're just kind of like waiting for the dust to settle, and investors are, hiding in the rabbit holes with everyone else. So, I would say, smaller is better now, because people don't really know. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I was working on some some big studio titles in January and February, and just because some investors that you talk to, they'll say, I want to invest in a studio film because it's a franchise, it's big, so you can kind of place them, and you say, okay, well, if you don't want to do indie, you want to do that, that's just, I'm not going to like not help them with I'm not going to lose business because they say, I don't do the indies, I don't do the big movies, and I'll put them in the big movies. But since then, they're like, wait, hold on, where's where the theater's going to be in next year, or even 6 months? It's like they're all, who knows? They're all struggling now. They could potentially, I'm sure bailouts will happen. They just loosened the laws on studios owning the exhibitors. So that's something that's new and exciting. I'm sure now, Disney has not done it, but I'm sure Netflix, Disney, Netflix,
Amazon, yeah,
they're all going to start buying into that, and kind of restarting the problem that back 60, 70 years ago. I think it was I forgot when, 40s or something, when they actually prevented the studios from owning that because of antitrust. But that'll be interesting. But whatever, but that's why the theatrical films are a little bit in the kind of gray area. But at the same time, what has everyone been doing for 6 months? They've been sitting in there. They've been social distancing. They've been working from home, watching Netflix. So the sort of outcome from that is Netflix is saying, oh shit, we're running out of content. And then that's and everybody, and same with the studios, they haven't been filming in even they don't have the sort of bandwidth that Netflix does, because short of like HBO Max that has Warner Brothers titles going back 50 years, and even Disney's struggling because they have they have a library of cartoons, which are great if you have kids, but they're kind of even struggling because they don't have a really diverse library. So sure, of Netflix and the Hulus and basically one and the same, but basically even those libraries are getting really just cut through, because 6 months of people, no new content, everyone just started filming again, so now it's more or less global, but on a small scale. It's going to ramp up, but it's literally everyone's freaking out, and everyone has their hands on big money buttons, which is good. So there's a lot of from all the negative that is come from this. The good news is there's going to be money flowing very fast now, because there's going to be huge demand for it, and not necessarily for theatrical films, but there are new models even coming with that from Disney, of like the pay. It's sort of like the day and date sort of pay for. Day and date's not new, but they're Disney's they're, I think it was Mulan, that they're trying new strategies with, where it's sort of like you buy it, but then you get it for the entire time you subscribe to Disney Plus for like a higher price. I don't know, I think it's $29 or whatever the price may be. So
it's like $20 per movie.
Yeah, they were just talking about doing Mulan for what, $29.99, and everyone's like, we're not going to pay that. We already paid for it. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
But if you think about the price that you would pay at a movie theater, like, and everybody
have a family though. That's all. Like if you're just two people or you're just one person, you're paying
Right.
like two people. You know, like, who's gonna do that? And even people with families. I don't know. Like I watched this. I watched this thing called Beyond the Trailer. It's on YouTube. And have you heard of that, Devin? Beyond the Trailer?
No, I haven't.
She was talking about it, and all you see in the comments is hell no. I'm not buying this. $29.99 is Disney crazy? Hell no. Like it's like for them to think that people are going to like pay that money, it's literally like a social experiment. You know, they don't really know.
It is, but you know what? I mean, now that they in the last handful of years, I mean, I have to say I'm sort of guilty of going to less movies than I used to. But I mean, the last movie I went to, with my mother, funny enough, but we went to a movie, and it was the nice movie theaters where you get an appetizer, you get a drink. We had we had one little appetizer and two drinks. It was the movie between it was a $200 experience. So it's I mean 30 in perspective. That's $29.
Yeah.
So it is expensive. You say holy shit, and I've literally sat around and I've done the my god, do I want to buy it? I know it's I know it's not going to be worth the money, but you're like, oh, okay, screw it, I'm running out of things to watch, and I've done a few clicks.
Exactly.
And it's there are going to be people who do it, and there are going to be people who don't, just like anything. And it's going to be more more widespread than people going to movies, certainly right now, but also because price has gone up. I mean, remember, I'm not like incredibly old, but I mean, but I'm still I'm still up there. And back in the in the 90s when when you see the movies is $4 and you get popcorn, maybe you spend $10.
Yeah.
So it's now it's you can't get out of there, especially if you have a date or whatever, you bring your mother, whatever it is. Like it's literally like going out to sushi for a night. I mean, it's like a whole thing, which is fine. And now they make movies actually comfortable, so you're not stepping on popcorn. You can sit back, and that's great. But all in all, it's
too now the
luxury leather seats.
Luxury leather.
You have the button you push. You're like, hold on. You have the button. You're like, help, please. Can I get another drink? More wings, popcorn. Whatever.
Yes.
And your feet are up. No, I know. I mean, I kind of like it, and it makes it more fun to me. But it doesn't make it any cheaper. It's like going out to a really nice dinner if if you're on a date or something. So I mean, I don't know many people, not to bust heads of people who go to movies by themselves, but it's usually you go with friends or whatever. And that's I mean, it gets expensive. So so $29.99 or whatever, it's a lot. And I don't know if I'll spend it on Mulan. I don't know if I care to see
I spent $20 on Trolls, so I mean, there was nothing to watch, and I needed something to watch, so I did it. And the thing is Devin, people are going to do it as we are in this quarantine, and there's a second and third wave of COVID, which it probably will. People are going to need something to do. They need escapism, and if you can't leave your house, I personally think people are going to pay the $20-$30. I think it's, like you said, it's a social experiment right now, Tish, but I think it's going to be the wave. Just like people were like, I'm never going to pay $15 for a movie ticket, and
I think
can you hear us? I think we might have lost her right there. Can you hear me though, Devin? Oh, we lost you for a second.
Oh, you lost who? Me?
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, what part?
You were speaking kind of something about social experiment, and then you kind of froze and
no. Usually my internet is so good, but I'm basically saying that I think that people are going to pay it. I think that right now it's like, oh, I'm never going to do it. But just like a $15 movie ticket or a $20 movie ticket here in New York, people were like, I'm not going to do it. And now it's like, it's just a part of life. And it's interesting. I want to piggyback off of what you said earlier. We've talked about the law that was in place where studios couldn't own movie theaters, and how Amazon Prime and Hulu and Disney, how they were buying up all the movie theaters, and how there's going to be this big demand, and there is this big demand for content. So I just want everybody who has been watching the show to know that Devon here, who is in finance, has just confirmed that. We've talked about it multiple times. So now you know that it's not just us saying it. This is an expert who is saying this is what's going to happen. So I just want to like put that out there. And Devon, you know, one of the things that we talk about here on the show is like creating your own content with COVID, with everything. How can like an indie filmmaker really maximize on their opportunity to get financing for their film in the pandemic, in this time of this shift? Like, what things are you seeing? What things would you suggest? Because the people who don't necessarily have like a overly large budget, like maybe 10 million or $1 million, like you talked about before, but somebody working on a super indie level.
Sure. Well, something I had this conversation recently with someone, Tish and I know that work well with my creative partner who's awesome. But you know, there's something that's missing. You know, and I get pitched. I mean, even now, I mean, it's a little, you know, sluggish, but I mean, still, at least 10 times a day with decks and this and that, and I have, you know, ideas, and you know what, it's really just like, you know, kind of yawn. It's kind of what that, I mean, something that I'm trying to do just as like a side project, because I think it's really lacking, and of course I you know, I have connections that may, I don't know. Well, I'm sure I do have connections that a lot of people don't, but that's not necessarily what it's all about, you know. But what I would really recommend and is basically like if it's really something you're passionate about, like put a few thousand, 5,000, 10,000, whatever rainy day fund, family money, make a sizzle reel, make a short, make a teaser, make something that shows your concept, because there's so many, like, you know, even decks, people always you know, where's your deck, and where, you know, where's this? They send me decks, and it's like, you know, I've done plenty in my lifetime myself because investors have asked, but I mean, honestly, if you can like put an idea on screen, even if it's, you know, 5 minutes, I mean, even if it's short, I mean, you could do like the swingers model of spending like, you know, 10, 20 grand and making a movie out of it. So you certainly can make, you know, for a few $1,000s, certainly now with, you know, camera equipment. I mean, honestly, you could get a you know, digital mirrorless, you know, camera that has, you know, it shoots 4K with a little bit, you know, higher an editor, you know, like someone who do color grading. You know, I mean, honestly, if you have a vision you could put on screen in any way, you know, or I mean, you know, obviously scripts are great too, but it's scripts still. I mean, either way, you really need to put something that's beyond what anyone else can put in front of somebody. Which right now it's like, okay, well, if you know somebody, you can give them a script and they'll read it, great. But I mean, people really want to see that you're a filmmaker, and that you have a concept. And if you're just a writer, you know, it's fine. You know, it's just sometimes difficult to, like I said, being, you know, a development executive myself. You know, these people get submitted, you know, thousands, and on, you know, there are companies that read scripts and kind of do a lot of processing for Netflix that probably get tens of thousands, you know, companies like that. But the whole thing is, it's like you're not going to get, you know, a script to, you know, somebody really like, you know, put on their desk as a priority to read for the weekend, of, you know, who's greenlighting the scripts at, you know, a major, you know, streaming channel or studio or distributor in general, without something beyond what they have. So I would say, you know, if it's a passion, well, you know what, borrow money from family, like save up. You know, even if you, you know, pull favors. I know plenty of people who have made shorts for basically free, pulling favors, using equipment they have, borrowed equipment. I mean, it's just, you know, and if you're not the directing type, you know, it is a little harder, but it's, you know, it's kind of all about, I mean, it is always about who you know and getting it in front of someone's eye. And there's a demand, but yeah, I mean, you just can't, and I've used this example before, but writer in, you're in a cornfield somewhere in Iowa, or sorry if anyone lives in Iowa, but you can't just put something in the mail and expect, some and Netflix to say, "Great, love the project, brilliant, let's greenlight it." I mean, there's too many guards at the gate. It's too hard. You just have to go. If you don't have connections, either find someone who does, or go above and beyond. And it doesn't necessarily cost a lot to show proof of concept. There was a film recently. I'm totally blanking the name. I think it was called Code 8, and it was a movie that was made for, I think it was on Netflix, I want to say. I don't know correctly. It might have been on Amazon. I don't know. But it was made for $3.5 million, and it's a sci-fi movie with the special effects and all this stuff. But it was based on a short, like a really well done short, and the short got very popular on basically became viral in a sense, and that's how it became a movie, and it did incredibly well as one of Netflix's top 10. I think it was Netflix. Yeah, okay, I'm pretty sure it's Netflix. But it's one of their top 10 movies for a couple weeks, and next to a Michael Bay movie, next to the ones all the movies Netflix is releasing that are $100 million movies that Netflix is suddenly making. This movie was $3.5 million. So if you can imagine, I don't know what they made on it, but that's a great way into it's all unknown actors. They were in the short. They carried on to the full-length film, and it was well done. It looked like it was a $3 million movie, a sci-fi movie with special effects that looked like a $30 million movie. So that's what you can do these days, and that's what I would suggest anybody, because it's really hard to get ahead of the curve by just saying, "Hey, this script's great. Here's the log line. here's my prototype cast is Brad Pitt." So you say, "Okay, that's great. Wonderful. I get so many of those a day." It's and it's you put all this color, you put their picture in, you make this pretty little deck, and it's like, well, like, is Brad Pitt in this? He's like, "Oh no, they're just who we're thinking of." I'm like, "Okay, great. You go and get Brad Pitt and come back."
Yeah, but I'm so glad that you're talking about the proof of concept, because I actually am on a project where there was a filmmaker. He made a proof of concept. It was a video off of a script, and a studio picked it up because the script was unique, but it was also the style of the filmmaker. And from that short, the filmmaker he's doing all these projects on Netflix, where he's a director on Netflix from his short, right? Mm-hmm. So I do agree with you when I'm saying, if you have a script, don't just have a script, have a proof of concept, a visual proof of concept. And what I would say, I do think it's amazing to have bigger actors in there, but I also think that visually, having a visual style will always win out. Having something unique and something really cool about your short is always going to win over just having or throwing just an actor here and there. Because I've seen some other shorts. I was just like, what did they try? You ever seen a short where it's like they just let the actor have complete control and creative control, and they're just like, they're in their creative bag.
Some terrible shorts. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen some shorts.
They're just like doing whatever.
Yeah.
No direction.
No, I know. I mean, most shorts are terrible. That's why proof of concept. I mean, another one I quote often, which I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but I quote Stranger Things, because that's a deck you could pull offline, and it wasn't so much about selling who was in it or this, that, and the other, but they built, it was more like a lookbook, but with some with some direction of you can see what was playing out, and it was high concept at the same time. So lookbooks are usually just like pictures, and business decks are just usually kind of bullshit. I've done a lot of them, so it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna make this much and this much, and everyone says, okay, sure. I mean, I maybe have a little bit more reason to say why they make what they make, but most people say it's going to make, here are the comparables, and they quote the 6 biggest films that have ever been made in that genre, It's like if it's a horror movie, it's like um, well, I'm blanking on the
Evil
franchise.
Dead.
Like what's evil? Yeah, it's like Saw, Evil Dead, all this, and it's like, okay, like just quote every, just eye roll. But Stranger Things was a deck that they pitched, but it was picked up because they did it really well, but it was more like it was almost almost as far as a short, but it was a very well produced lookbook of like the character development and the way it's going to be shot and the themes throughout, and it was very creative. And it was a good one. But that said, that was sort of a rare thing. I would say, if you could make a 5-10 minute short or sizzle reel or something that trailer, even whatever it kind of that's your vision. I mean, that's so much easier to get across than anything that's on paper. That I just know, because being someone who's seen a million of them, you can raise, and the Code 8 example, they raised it all through crowdfunding because it was so popular based on, they did a few special effects scenes, but they did it really, in a practical enough way where you'd think they spent a lot of money in special effects when really it was just a few shots. And it just it was, there are ways to get around things. And I guess if I was a writer and I had no filmmaking experience, bring on a director, bring on some an editor, some kind of some limited skeleton crew of people who know how to direct, edit, get around costs of producers who's done I mean, I of course know a handful of people in the space, but it's not that hard to find people. I mean, a lot of people are out of work, haven't worked in 6 months now almost. So I mean, you can find, honestly, well, the world of LinkedIn and social media, and I mean, you could reach out and touch anyone practically. So I would just, some people, some people reach out to me, I should say hundreds over the years. It's why I have a bazillion connections, and it's like, but it's a lot of it's just noise. But some of the, it's the, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So yeah, I mean, it's not the person, we don't annoy the shit out of someone who might have actions. It's, don't do that, but do a really polished. You have one chance and to do it, and so do it well. Whether it's a sizzle or short, or just a really well put together deck where conceptually you're just like, oh my god, this looks great. It makes business sense. Someone could get it without, like, imagine someone had, it's like an elevator pitch. That's what film is. It's like, like when I open a LinkedIn message from somebody who's pitching me something, I mean, you literally have like 30 seconds to catch my eye, like 30 seconds. And if you say, oh, I want, it's this, here's a log line, it's about a detective, it goes back in time, and then but I want Brad Pitt for, and this, that, and the other, and it's like someone that no one sees, it's like, delete, bye. It's got to be something where it's like, look, here's the concept, here's who I am, here's what I've done. And if you haven't done anything before, it's got to be really powerful to even, move the, move the goalpost at all, because it's, otherwise it's kind of going to be, if it's hard on me, it's going to be very hard for, some executive at a production, a distributor, the screen like The Stranger in a cornfield in Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it comes back to the theme, and the fundamental theme that I love about filmmaking is that creativity matters, Mm-hmm. And I know that we typically, and I know you've seen this, but I've seen so many decks where they actually have like actors attached, and it's just like there's just no interest, because either that actor hasn't shown that they can actually create something like this before and make money in this area, or it's just like so obscene that they're asking for their actor, that you just kind of completely pass it. You're just like, nobody's going to give me $100 million just so that this one actor that you're telling me that you're getting on this project. So I do believe fundamentally in, the more creative, the more unique your project is, I just think that people are either going to absolutely love it. You're going to find the right people that are absolutely going to love it, or you're going to find people who just want the names. They might like your project. And that's what I've seen. Some really great projects, and people are like, oh, well, can they get names? And I'm like, you know what? That's not this project. It's so good. It really just needs to be made. It just needs to be made, So I'm glad you said that, though. But we're going to talk. We're gonna switch gears a little here, and we're going to talk about. A lot of people don't. Well, a lot of people don't know you now. They know you now. Our viewers know you out there. Now filmmakers know you out there. But you have a pretty famous dad. Pretty famous dad out there. So why don't you tell us, tell our viewers a little bit about your dad?
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Yeah, I mean, my dad was born in, I think, Macomb, Mississippi, where I think Britney Spears was born in Macomb, Mississippi too, but he was born in 1939. And he used to play. He's a musician. He's as a kid. I think, I don't know, six, 7, 8. He used to play guitar on the local radio station, and yeah, I mean, someone from I don't know, I forgot the entire story how, but essentially some big record people out in LA got wind of it, and they basically put him and the family. I mean, they were, my family, my grandfathers were moonshiners in Mississippi, and that's I think my great grandfather played the violin on the train. It was kind of very I don't know, very 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 southern, I would say. But anyway, so he was came out here at I think the age of, I don't know, it's 8, 9, or 10, but and he's saying I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. It caused a huge stir back in the 50s when it was, I mean, it's almost considered like porn, and he had to speak. No, it was really bad. It's like mommy's cheating on daddy with Santa, whatever. I mean, it was one of those things where the song was almost banned, and he had to go around, and he ended up selling, multiple gold, millions in copies of that song, and obviously hear it every Christmas. But he went on to do TV. He was, he's very fun. He's very clever, charming guy. Knew everybody. Was well liked by everybody from back in the 50s. Rat Pack, Sinatra, like everyone. He knew everybody. Back way back in the day, kind of almost golden Hollywood almost times, and yeah, and he did. I think he did the show Bachelor Father. He's in the show or the movie Inherit the Wind, which won the Academy Award. He did very well for himself for a lot of years. So he kind of, he's a musician, actor. He produced. I grew up at. I grew up in LA, so had a very interesting childhood between like one of his best friends is Barry Gordy, who founded Motown, and so I grew up like playing tennis with Barry Gordy every weekend, and it was kind of like that, and I don't want to tell you the Playboy Mansion story.
I mean, that's not a regular childhood. I mean,
not the Playboy Mansion stories.
I was young. Don't get me wrong. It was my dad. He kind of. I shouldn't be saying this on a podcast. Damn it. No, he just. No, he was a charming guy. Everyone liked him from the the 50s on up. He was the young guy. He was the kid who everyone he'd go to Vegas and they'd be like, oh, Sinatra would be like, oh, Jimmy Boyd, table, give a shout out. He was very well liked, and he's a very nice guy and charming as sin. That's sort of, he of course took me to every R-rated movie when I was growing up there was, and probably pissed my mom off quite a bit. But it's so. I mean, that's kind of where I would have a love for movies probably either way, but that was So I had an interesting LA childhood, I should say, but it was only interesting growing up, and you don't really, if you're a kid, you don't really, you don't know who Barry Gordy is, you don't know who all these people you're meeting are, you just, you don't know who anyone is, and that kind of, it's pretty much kind of humble past that. I mean, it's not like it just was. It's very normal to me to see these people and, just, have normal interactions. And it's like, oh, we're going to so-and-so's house to play tennis. Tennis was the 80s sport, versus like, everyone, buried him and, everyone played tennis. And that's why I'm good at tennis and I fucking suck at golf. Sorry to quote my.
Yeah. I was going to say the 90s sport is kind of like golf, right?
Yeah. No, I'm an 80s kid, so it's like I grew up playing tennis, and that was everyone played tennis. I mean, that's what on the weekends. I just remember going from whatever to tennis match, like with you know, at all these people that like you probably, you know, all know the name of it. At that time, I'm just like, oh, it's a nice house, nice tennis court.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it like Michael Jackson and Diana Ross hanging out with like Tracy Ellis Ross?
What was it? You know, he had a movie theater, and I watched, you know, when I was a house party when I was with a Kid and Play when I was like, whenever they come out, like 1990 or 19. I don't know. You know, but it was like you'd watch all this stuff, and you meet all these people, and it's like you kind of like, you know, I was kind of like, oh, this is like, that's, you know, that's in my house. I don't know. He had an arcade in his house. He's nice. He's not very nice. I mean, to this day, I haven't seen him in years, but yeah, no, I mean, you know, it was just one of those. It was an interesting childhood. I probably said too much. I probably yeah.
Awesome, but you know, the thing is that like you know, knowing as many of the people that I've known over the last couple of years, you just get to kind of know them, and it's just like, oh, this is that person, you know, and you know they have their life outside of that, and you meet a lot of people in finance like that too. They have like this persona, they're this somebody, and then at home they're just this person in their house with their family playing tennis.
I don't know. We made some great doubles matches, and yeah, I played. I mean, literally it was every weekend, and you know, you don't think of, you're just like, oh, you're some you know, nice. You're just my dad's friend. You're just this, and it's, you know, later you're like, oh shit, like, oh yeah, like you're like, I mean, you know, you don't even realize it for you know, for 10 years till you're a teenager, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, like, all right, like very good. I'm like, good for this guy. Like, you know, it's like
right. You know what I want to ask you also, you know, what types of projects interest you? What types of projects are you interested in and you look out for?
Well, lately it's been well, I've kind of had a specific, I shouldn't say specific, because you know, if there's a project that comes to me fully attached and it's you know, it's like, I mean, it's a real deal project that's ready to go, and I'm like, wow, I see the potential in it, you know, and then I'm less concerned about genre. I mean, lately I've been trying to do sort of like create more, be more on the creative side than the finance side, because it's great, you know, when someone says, oh, I've got this project, you know, put the money together, and you know, that's you know, I mean, I mean, I shouldn't say it's easy for me to do, because it's not, unless you have, I mean, I could go into the differences of, you know, different types of financing and which are like more straightforward than others, but you know, either way, it's not always the easiest, but you know, I will say the projects that I'm looking forward, looking to do now are more, they're more on the creative side of things. I want to, I'm working with, you know, John Cry, who, you know, Tish,
he was on here two episodes ago. I think I told you.
I talked to you about it. I said, oh, you talked to Tish, and I saw that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, Tish, yeah, she wants me to top on a podcast. He's like, yeah, go do it. He's like, yeah, it's like, yeah. Well, I mean, he's, of course, you know, nothing. He's all good things on that front. So, no, I mean, I want to like collaborate on something fun that's you know, potentially with him, because you know, he's such a creative, you know.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. He's so.
I was thinking when you were saying that, I'm like, so Devon's probably going to be directing. You're probably going to be directing something soon. I can see that, right?
Well, no, I'll let John do that. But no, I know I want to be, though. I mean, I'm a creative person, so you know, I don't want to do like full, you know, have the weight of the world on my shoulders myself. But you know, it's one of those things where we've had conversations, and I kind of want to, like, you know, find someone to, you know, or well, essentially just, you know, do exactly what I said to you, because you know, I kind of practice what I preach in a sense. You know, I'm trying not to give anyone the wrong advice, but you know, it's for all these projects that, you know, while you know, everyone's coming back online after investors kind of, I told you, they hit in a bit of a rabbit hole over the past few months, but they're coming back online and they want to do, you know, film funds. I had a call earlier about, you know, people interested, like, you know, can we do it? Can we do it now? And you know, that's great. You know, the big picture stuff of like, yeah, let's do this gigantic film fund. Okay, great. I'll help you with that. I'll put it together. But I want to, you know, I don't want to. I hate financing studio movies. I really don't like the idea of just handing over money to a studio for a fee. You're basically brokering a deal. Like, I know people with money. You have some big movie. it's it's like I had all this, I had a Scorsese movie, Spielberg movie, I had all these movies before this, and I mean, some of them about, some of them actually were nominated, but they came out in the last 8 months, I would say. And but I really, short of getting, being an EP on like a Spielberg movie or like an Academy, I'd love to win an Academy Award, so would we all. But other than that, it's like I don't like just handing money over to the studios and collecting a fee and being like, goodbye, that was great. Here, take the money, like, because it's just, I mean, there's nothing fulfilling to me about that. So what I'd like to do is, or what I'm plotting to do. Sorry, top secret information, but I want to make a. I want to kind of get into a very gosh, I shouldn't give too much information before. I shouldn't break the. No, but I want to do something that's action is The Expendables is great. That was a fun movie to do, minus the nightmare that it was to produce. But like there's a very like imagine taking a franchise like the Avengers, a Marvel type franchise where they spend that was the one I think Endgame cost at the end of the day like $500 million to make.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, between 4 and 6, the estimates are all over the place, but they're in that crazy range. And the thing about it is, if you have a good idea, you could do it for so much less. And what I want to do is kind of do a kind of a streaming either series or or film, and or franchise potentially that's kind of in that space. But yeah, well, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's some ideas for it that are sort of in a very popular space right now that are I mean, essentially you can do drama that's great.
Yeah.
People tend, and drama's hard though sometimes because it's hard to pitch a concept. I mean, it's really about the actors and the script, and there's a lot of getting into it. If you have a concept for action, sci-fi, a blend of that, or I mean, certain other, I mean, horror is horror. I mean, that's sort of that has its own thing because you're like, oh great, well we know it's going to be sort of cheap-ish because you're not going to have the actors that you need. You don't need that to drive the movie, but I think there's a lot to be said in the world of doing what Disney and the studios do, but doing like undercutting them in a big way when there are a lot of other people willing to spend a lot of money on film TV that's just like that, that's done, that's equally convincing, that's maybe it's just smaller scale, which I think is better. It's like like I don't know who saw the I'm don't want to shit on Disney because, but like the last Jedi, it's like my complaints would be it's like how many. I mean, it's like you give up on
that's reviews about the last Jedi. I mean, nah,
well,
you're a fan.
I laugh with certain people I mentioned where it's like like they couldn't come up with new ideas, so they just said, okay, 1,000 Star Destroyers, and they just did more instead of doing creative. They're just like, well, let's just make it let's make it more. And it's like, okay, well more is not better, and it's and that's what all the studios they're kind of getting locked in more. They're like, okay, well let's stick with what's good because it's safe, but let's just make more of it. Let's just make special effects and do 5,000 of it instead of 5. And it's like, okay, well you didn't advance the story at all. You just kind of actually ruin the story, and and it's I'm never gonna job at I'm never gonna think greenlit at Disney again now, but thank you guys. But no, but it's that kind of
it's not just a Disney thing, but let's be clear, it's an industry thing because the studios are only playing it safe. And I remember like early 90s, Disney owned, I can't remember, was it TriStar where they did, was it TriStar? I don't know if you know that, but Disney owned, they made like Pretty Woman. They had another like sub studio where they could take more risks on projects that weren't so, so child friendly. So I just think that studios they're getting away from like, well, you know what? Let me just do like a sub or a sub of a sub so that we can take more risks and being like, nope, we only want to do tent poles. We only want to do these big box office things. We don't want to take any more risks. And John talked about that in his episode. Like, he was like, nobody really wanted Donnie Darko. Nobody really wanted, you know, Memento, but we saw something special in it. And then all of them got nominated, or, you know, all of them became a success and became, you know, these films that filmmakers love, you know? So what I want to happen in this industry, which I hope will continue as long as we have people who are creative, is that we can continue to make creative films that are going to define what filmmaking is, because I don't want to get away from that, you know? I don't want to get away from the different ways that people film, but these young filmmakers out here, they're just doing it with their phone. They're like, we don't care. We don't need the studio. We're going to do it with our phone. And they do some really unique, great things. So that's where my like hope lies.
Well, you know, and that's, you know, it's a kind of a YouTube generation where you get something viral. And I mean, you know, unfortunately, well, fortunately or fortunately, because, you know, YouTube's one of those things where, yeah, you could get 10 million hits one day and then not again, or you could be YouTube's, you know, a social media kind of king or queen, whatever. And it's sort of, I mean, yeah, it's great. You know, I think at a point it's like, you know, being, you know, eventually you're going to be selling, you know, products on your station or something to make, and yeah, and you'll make a good fortune. I'm about to like name drop, like, or not name drop, but I want to say like the Kardashian family has, because, you know, but it's like, you know, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you have a skin cream now, and you have this and then that, and it's like, you know, I them good for the whole family. I mean, they've all done very well, but, you know, it's like, what, you know, you kind of, you know, I think that only goes so far. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes like someone, you know, has something wonderful and it does well, and it's because they're a talented filmmaker, and then they get picked up, and then the next new director, and that's wonderful too. But it's kind of, there's a lot of noise in that sort of, you know, world too, of YouTube and, you know, TikTok now, and, you know, whatever. And it's like, okay, great, you did a 10-second like.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Devin.
No, I was gonna make it.
No, I cut you off. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna make a joke about just TikTok, and, you know, you do like 10-second booty shake, and, you know.
TikTok is a thing. That's a vibe, though. TikTok is a vibe, though. You gotta, like, I just kind of feel like it's like something. It's kind of like when what was the thing that happened where you could make like 3-second videos? Vine. You remember Vine? No one talks about Vine anymore, but you remember Vine was just a vibe. It was just something that people were just doing. And I just kind of feel like TikTok is going to be like the Vine, and it's just going to go away. Does anyone even talk about Vine?
I don't even know what happened to Vine. I'm not like on TikTok. I'm not, you know, like, okay, I'll stop it. I'm not even on Facebook anymore, really. It's like, I really just, like, you know, I'll post pictures of my, you know, food or something on Instagram, like some tacky teenager, but that's about it. Like, you know, I don't know. It's like, well, I do cook, so I'm like, hey, look, this looks pretty good.
I think it's because like Instagram and Facebook, but specifically Instagram, whenever there's another entity, Instagram is like, nope, we're gonna like up that. Like, even now there's like Instagram Reels. That's because of this whole TikTok situation. But what I was gonna say earlier, Devin and Tish, is that I do think that there will be more room for creativity in films just because of what's happening in the world. I mean, I think that there's going to be a demand for it in order to keep people's attention, because, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's a lot happening. People, they want it on all levels. I don't think it's just that they want dramatic films or content, but they also want comedic films or content, and horror, but they want it to be relatable, and they want uniqueness. I mean, so many people are just like, the conversations that I've been having, it's just, I need something, and that's all that people are watching is content right now. That's literally people's like therapy right now.
It is, and they're running out of it. So that there's, you know, that's that's the problem, and that's the opportunity for, you know, I mean, you know, I know how I've, you know, want to kind of put myself in, you know, kind of make moves in the space, but, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for people that necessarily probably wouldn't have it before this whole craziness happened, because in come back in February, probably before mid-February, there was a 10-year backlog on for every major soundstage, and I shouldn't say all the world, but all the major kind of locations. LA, certainly, London. I mean, of course you could find locations anywhere, but I remember looking at kind of the Romanias and Budapest, kind of different places where you can find kind of quality space, and you get a little rebate, and it's cheaper, and it's this, that, and the other. And they were booked for years back in 2019. So, and it's going to be, so it's already like a huge, it just ramped up with, Netflix spending, tens of billions of dollars a year, and Disney trying to compete with them, and Amazon having all this money too. And it's like, it was endless money. So, but that all got stopped. So there was a huge push of cash the last couple years. But I mean, you'd be surprised how fast 6 months of no new content, can just. I mean, it basically took out all the studios except for for Disney, and even Disney. They still have the money to put into new stuff, but I mean, they were the only one who really had the content were the ones who had these big streaming libraries, and which is basically Netflix. Amazon kind of has some. Hulu had the kind of the TV, whatever. There's Hulu Live. They have a lot of TV stuff, and HBO Max made a big kind of opening, but it was literally right before this happened. So it was like literally like, and I had well, I don't say my business too much, but that was something that was exciting for me, because some of my producing partners were working with them, and we were doing some films with, it was a great platform of competition. They had a lot to offer, and then kind of all of a sudden it's like, well, what happened to the new movies if you can't shoot any new movies? So, but yeah, but I'll go back to now. We're 6 months later. Netflix is their library is thin. HBO Max. If you want to watch movies dating back 10, 20, you want to watch Jaws, whatever. If you want to watch something that's
Pretty Woman.
Whatever. Jaws is, but if it's a classic that's from the library back 50 years or more, however long it goes back. I mean, it goes back longer, but I don't know what I haven't subscribed yet, but apparently it's their entire library for I mean, goes back forever. So that's great, but there are less people that are they don't want to watch. Certainly not some kid on their iPhone. They're not going to want to watch some Warner Brothers movie from the 60s. They're going to want to watch something new, and there's no they're running out of Netflix, and everyone's freaking out. Now everyone's back, and so there's just going to be probably more money thrown at film in the next few months than ever, because now you can actually shoot film, and they're good channels. There's streaming. Obviously, theatrical is a little bit dodgy. I don't know if I'd put any of my investors in theatrical film right now, because it's just like even the films that are scheduled out to December and beyond. It's like, well, like it might not be. Movie chains are going to be struggling by then. We don't even know what's going on with that. So, there's the things, streaming. Animation's a great kind of platform, because you could chuck all the social distancing out the window, because you have a microphone, and you have some you have the animators who do the work, and you could be like, okay, do it from home, send it to the render farm. We'll edit it somewhere else and do something. Like you could have it. You could do an animation movie, around the globe. I mean, it'd be difficult, because might not be very cohesive, but you literally can do it, and have an animator here, animator there, throughout every country in the world. And
it's going to be the new norm. It's going to be the new norm. I really feel like what you're talking about is going to be a different way of how we are going to interact, because it's also cheaper for people to do things from their home than to be in a big building or whatnot. And we just have so much technology right now.
Right.
I just think that even like looking outside of the film industry, just looking on the market, like everyone's being extremely creative with creating commercials. I don't know if you guys notice, but we're getting new commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Ask yourself why and how are we doing that? Is because these filmmakers are out here and they're coming up with ways creatively to create things on Zoom. And I've seen it done, and it's really creative. I really do feel like there's going to be a different way of filmmaking, even 6 months from now, on how we're going to interact as, filmmakers, as entrepreneurs. It's going to be a huge difference.
I agree. I mean, we look at like Quibi and there's a lot of short sort of length content, but I've seen people make great content on their iPhones. I mean, now your iPhone is, I've seen some stuff and you're like, damn, you shot that on an iPhone. And I've seen comparisons with an iPhone and a Red camera where, of course, you go into low light, you go into certain things. It's obviously not nearly the same, but for your, for like a first time, I mean, it's just so like, why not? If you have a creative idea and if you're creative enough to write a script with a great concept, you can find someone to shoot it. Yeah, like if you don't know how, find a DP. Like, I mean, even if it's just a photographer, that shoots weddings. You know what I mean? Like, you have to find like a Hollywood DP to kind of set up the shot. I mean, really, and I don't want to like kind of undercut, kind of the quality, high level DP out there or anything like that. But it's like you can. I've seen some things where it's like, I mean, it's essentially free. I mean, it's not. You do the stuff you have, it's in your pocket, or you can ask a friend for his, honestly, it's such, it's not like you're running around with a, like a camera, like some big VHS in a tape, or before like Super 8 or whatever. It's like you really have all the technology to shoot something cool, and any kid who's in art school for graphic design and essentially special effects for film. It's like you can see. I mean, I see all the time because I follow some feeds of these kids, and it's like it could be some kid out of India who's reproducing a scene from it looks like it's a Marvel Light, but it's like you don't have to have something perfect to sell it to. To sell it to someone, you just have to like show the concept works, and it's
right.
Idea. I mean, because otherwise you're just sending an email that goes in their junk folder. For the most part.
No, I agree with that, and I do think it's a time for creativity. And you're right, there is going to be a lot of money flooding the market because there's going to be new content. So filmmakers, entrepreneurs, people get ready. Get ready for it. This is the time to do it. So we're coming up to the end of our show, but we usually ask everyone a question. I'm gonna let you deal with this.
Oh, okay. So we believe in using our platform for change, and so we do have to say, please arrest the cops. Not even please, just arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. There's so much stuff that's happening in our world, like we talked about before, Devon, with COVID, racial injustice, and all the other extraness that is
politics.
20. Yes, that is. We'll just say that is 2020. The foolishness. I've been out protesting, and these chants, sometimes you're saying things that you don't really want to say, but one of the things that we ask everybody on our show is, if you had one thing that you wanted to put out into the world right here, right now, as it just pertains to our climate, and you were leading your own protest, what would your chant be?
And it has to be world changing. It has to be something that yeah.
Or just something wait a second, Tish.
How about this? Can't we all get along?
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. There you go.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us, Devon. You literally dropped some gems. People out there watching, he literally laid it out, A, B, C, D, E. So if you are not creating your own content and figuring out how to finance it or put it out there, that's on you. He gave you the game. So pick it up, shoot it, in the net because Devin, he did that.
Thank you guys again. Come back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. We will be here giving you these gems with our people. So we can't wait to see you guys next week. Peace.
Oh, wait. And shout out Devin's company. What's the name of your company, Devin?
Silver Cloud Entertainment.
I'm sorry?
Silver Cloud Entertainment.
Silver Cloud Entertainment. There you go, guys. He's out here in these streets looking for great content. FYI. There you go. There you go. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. Did he leave?
Yeah. But bye, everyone.